It seems like a long time ago, actually. Probably about 10 years ago, the Eagles and the Independents had decided to make an agreement, and Jim McPhillamy took over and started the Independents. Came down and interviewed. And it all happened very fast. So I remember the tour. It was a great afternoon. Spent time with Jim and kind of ran through my vision for the team, so forth. Actually visited Memorial Stadium before the changeover, and talked with Jim about his vision for Memorial and for the club and so forth. And it all fit really well with what I was looking to do at the time. And this all probably happened basically November, December of 2014. And then we pretty much agreed beginning December 2014 with the 2015 season starting, and just ramped it up really, really quickly. Had a combine, so forth, which I missed, actually, believe it or not. The timing was unfortunate. My father passed away, and so I ended up missing out and didn't quite have as much influence as I would have hoped for in the beginning with the team. But it was exciting, ramped up quickly with hiring a staff, and it was incredible how it came together. Staff-wise, was fortunate enough to bring Troy Lesane on as a lead assistant. We had Philip Poole in goalkeeping, John Litton as strength and conditioning, and we had a lot of fun. But it was a scramble, putting together where we train. Even the stadium. The first year was a jumble of probably 4 or 5 different places, and almost never knowing where you go next to play. But it was, for me, it was a great opportunity. The whys for me of why I wanted to come to Charlotte is one, actually a personal side. I went to college in the state, and I've always loved it. My wife and I had talked many times about coming back here at some point, and having the opportunity to live in Carolina. So it was a real plus on that end. Two, I was very excited about the opportunity to start up a new franchise and build it from scratch, and be able to build the infrastructure as well as the roster and so forth. So it was a great opportunity on that end. And then I felt like the USL. I'd actually been in the USL 20-something years ago, way back in the late 90s in New Orleans. And I knew the quality of the league and so forth, so I was really comfortable with that, and looked forward to being a part of it. A lot of things in terms of building the roster at the beginning is one, you make decisions very quickly. So we were fortunate in that we had a number of players that had ties into the area. And wanted to be a part of it, so we could draw on that, and I think that helped us quite a bit early on. We had the trials that worked. The league, had a sort of, it always has players that are moving from team to team, so that was a basis. And then it's always the ability to find kind of guys from MLS that drop down and are looking for a chance to kind of pull themselves back up, was a part of it. So between Troy and I, we both had a fair amount of contacts. We were both able to put a list together pretty quickly and make decisions and build a roster. It was definitely a coming together roster at the beginning. I remember the first game against the Charleston Battery at UNC Charlotte, and we were definitely a work in progress. I went into it very unsure of what to expect and didn't know, but we ended up losing at 3-2, but we played with good intensity, and I felt like, all right, there's something here that we can piece together as we go through it. It was great to see. We could manage to push the game and play and compete with one of the teams that had been a top team in the league. So I felt pretty good about that. Look, first, the Open Cup is just is a lot of fun, especially I think when you're sort of the underdog or the minor league team. I think it's great motivation for the players. One, to get the opportunity to compete against, to work towards, but then end up competing against an MLS club. It is kind of a weird coincidence. I had the same. I started in Des Moines with the USL2 PDL team at the time, and in our first year we actually played. We won a couple games, and then we ended up playing Sporting Kansas City at the time at their place, and it was such a great experience for a lot of those guys, because a lot of those guys will never get the opportunity to play in MLS or against MLS opposition again. And it sort of repeated itself. I think sometimes when you have a new group and it's going to be a hard year, it's easy to motivate for the initial games. And we had, by that point, added a little bit of experience in terms of players. Look, obviously we had Jorge Herrera was kind of the key focal point, or the first 100% easy enough, the first guy to sign in terms of the transition from the Eagles. But then we'd added Meshack Jerome and some other guys that had a lot of quality. So we got into the game. We were disappointed to lose the draw and have to go up to New England. But it was a great atmosphere. It was a college stadium, 5,000 seats, pretty full and pretty emotional. I remember being super excited, super nervous. You get to that level, and the one plus or the one break you get as the minor league team is this. A lot of times they play sort of reserve guys that maybe haven't played as much, so they fielded a lineup of a lot of reserves, and we hung in the game. It was 0-0 half, and kind of worked our way through it, and then we had sort of that ideal thing when you're the underdog. We scored a fairly late goal. Jorge scored an unbelievable goal that got us to 1-0, and then we just hung on and managed the game. So it was a fantastic result, really exciting, and also really kind of a bonding moment for the guys. I think it came together. It gave them belief in themselves that we could get it done as well. It certainly helps when you're a new team. You want things that put you on the map, and so it certainly helped being able to beat New England in the Open Cup. Gave us a chance to be kind of a known commodity, and maybe put us on the map of guys that didn't know where Charlotte was or what the Independence was. So it was a big plus in that regard, for sure. And I do think it helps. Certainly. We played against players in New England that ended up coming back with us, so they had a sense of how we played and what we did. When it didn't work for them, maybe in New England, they ended up playing with us for a year or two, and so that was a huge plus from our end. I had the opportunity after that. We ended up going back to Chicago, which for me was going back, I guess, and playing the Fire. I was again super excited about that game, just because I'd worked for the Fire for a number of years, and it was a great opportunity. Unfortunately, it didn't go our way. We got to 1-1, and then they ended up 3-1 winning, but it was still sort of a momentous occasion and a lot of fun and a good experience for the guys. So a lot of times clubs, English, Welsh, etc., come over to the U.S. During the summer. That's their pre-season for them. They look at it as a great opportunity to do two things. One, do pre-season maybe in a warmer climate and away in a nice climate. Two, get some games against different opposition. And then three, and probably most importantly from their standpoint, well, there's four too, is build their brand a little bit within the country. And then four, usually there's a small fee so they could make a little bit of money to help with pre-season costs. So We had been in conversations with a number of clubs about coming in. We were fortunate that we had kind of a free date in that window. There's a window sort of in early to mid-July when a lot of these games will come up. And so we were able to fit a date into a midweek game and bring them in. It was great. It was a great atmosphere. Probably the Ramblewood. We were at Ramblewood, and for those that don't know the history, I mean, we had built the stadium, and Jim put a lot of energy and effort into building the stadium at Ramblewood. And this was sort of the first game, a test of, we just built the locker rooms, just gotten the field kind of up to everything. And it was such a scramble before the game to get everything ready and get everything going. When the game came, it was fantastic. It was a full stadium, and then people behind. We had the sort of a mech deck behind the stadium where people could stand. It was a super atmosphere. Unfortunately, the game from our end was not entirely memorable, but it was still a game that a lot of the guys enjoyed and appreciated, just being a part of. So I think first it's always exciting for the guys. Look, they want to match themselves against top clubs. They love to play, whether it's Championship, Premier League, and just see where they stand as individual players, and see, hey, look, the gap's not that big, or is that big, and get a little bit of a measure. I think from a fan base standpoint, it's just an exciting opportunity to see a different club, to see a club live that you may not get the opportunity to see live at any other point. So those are things that are pretty exciting. I also think some of these games, especially midweek in the middle of a season, it was a nice opportunity for different guys to play and prove themselves, and an opportunity for some guys to get in a game where they might not have had an opportunity otherwise. So there's a lot of things that go on. It was, like I said, a good experience and a lot of fun. I think we ended up conceding early, maybe the 20th minute or so, and it went downhill, not fast, but downhill a little bit from there. But I think at the end of the day, they appreciated the chance to play in a good game, in a good environment, on a nice field, against a team that tried to push against them. And then we got a good run out of it, and then, like I said, an opportunity for guys to measure themselves in a different environment. First, the Sportsplex itself, like I said, we had bounced around through a number of different stadiums in our first few years. We kind of finally settled on Ramblewood, and had worked on trying to build a base there, which was a little bit of a difficulty. And so we had the opportunity, once they've completed the Sportsplex, to move out there. And the Sportsplex, we kind of could see it as it was being constructed and so forth. Is a beautiful stadium. At the time, it was just over 4,000 seats. We ended up expanding it to 5 eventually. But it was just a nice, really compressed stadium, perfect venue in terms of the stands being close to the field, having coverage, etc. An excellent field. They always managed to do a great job of taking care of the field and keeping it in pristine condition. So it was a nice opportunity. We also felt at the time, we were moving and merging with the youth club, and that we felt like this would be a good base of operations to attract youth families as well as our fan base out to Matthews to watch the game. So there was a lot of excitement and enthusiasm, and the opener was like kind of proof that this could work. And it was, just a tremendous kind of atmosphere. It was good to see the place full. Driving up, you kind of got a sense of, wow, this feels really nice, and it felt a little bit like a real game in our stadium, and so forth. So it was an exciting times, and we definitely enjoyed our experience at the Sportsplex throughout, and have a lot of good memories from there. The crowd was great, and I think I've always appreciated our fan base, our supporters. They've always been incredibly loyal, incredibly loud, and just super and super supportive of the group, of the team, and of me personally. So I've always really appreciated that part of it, we tried very hard to have a good relationship. And I think we felt at that point that this was going to be perfect. Like, we had sort of the right mix of, yeah, we're going to get people up from the city and they're going to come to the game. We're going to have sort of a different area where the families come and kids, and the Sportsplex is kind of ideal because the kids could be up and kind of run around a little bit. We kind of hoped to have a food truck set up and everything else, and we thought we could get a really special game day atmosphere out of it, and we're pretty excited about it in the early days of Matthews, for sure. So first, Memorial Stadium, so in between the beginnings and so forth, USL has done a really good job of sort of maintaining standards and minimums and qualities and so forth. And so, like I said, we expanded Sportsplex to be a little bit to meet minimum standards. We had brought on Dan D'Amico had come in along with Jim, and both Dan and Jim, again, Jim from the beginning, Memorial Stadium, and Dan was also a huge proponent of Memorial Stadium, and those guys worked sort of tirelessly to make this dream of theirs come true, that we could have a professional team that would play at Memorial. And from day one, I think with Jim, that's always been, sort of the number one, this is going to happen. And I give so much credit because, the hurdles he's gone through and so forth are huge. So we were just like, through the roof that we kind of finally were going to make it, have a downtown stadium. Be able to open and kind of make it easy for the fan base, which wasn't always easy to get out to Sportsplex at times, but make it easy for the fan base to walk to the stadium or have events leading up to the game and make it a real full-scale event. The stadium itself is gorgeous. I mean, you just walk in and guys are excited. It makes it so easy now for me to sell guys on coming to Charlotte and wanting to play here. It's a beautiful facility. The field's full size and 75 by 120. The surface is super playable, and guys can appreciate playing on it. So it has everything that we would want. And so it was just, I think when we came in here, we were like through the roof excited, probably a little too excited actually, the first day. But it came at a time as well that was the end of COVID, so it was kind of a weird dynamic. People were sort of just getting out and doing things. I also thought it was a great opportunity for us as a franchise to be able to market a stadium. We had a super group that year, in terms of the quality of the teams and some of the players that we had in. That was just really, really exciting. With the couple of guys from Charlotte FC before they'd started up, Sylvain and Marveau and Gabby had come in and joined us. So I thought it was a great marketing opportunity for us to really be able to push the stadium, as well as everyone kind of coming off of COVID and so forth. And unfortunately, I remember the first game against Red Bull a little bit too well, and that was the only game we lost here that year. But after that, we made it home, and we made it a place that we wanted to dominate at home and be good. So I was really pleased, and since then, we never looked back. Love this place. Yeah, I could go back with the players. I mean, so many feel like great players have been through here. But almost the starting point, I'd go back at the beginning and talk about Jorge. I think it was huge for us. Jorge is such a good ambassador for the city of Charlotte and for the transition, and he was a player that, you know, at the time was well above the level of championship coming in, and was a key factor for us, and such a positive leader with our group. And then, you know, shortly on the tail of that was with the Martinez brothers, you know, Enzo and Alex, and those guys were so passionate. You know, they're from the area, and were just so passionate about getting things going in the city, and trying to make this the best that they could. And not only great players, you know, coming from MLS into our group, but super competitors. Like they would just bring the level up of everything that we did, and so it was huge, you know, having those guys involved with our group. Sort of brought the level up, brought the recognition up of what we could be and what we were going to be, and I think made us a really viable team in the beginning years. So if you fast forward a few years, I won't go through everybody, but you know, having the opportunity to kind of bring some guys in different situations. So you know, like I said, in 21, when we were moving here, we had the opportunity to work with Charlotte FC and some of the guys that they had signed early. So Brant Bronico came in with us and played the year and was super with our group, you know, just in terms of his character, his quality, and then obviously within the locker room. As the year wore on, had a good conversation with a French player, Sylvain Marveaux, League One player throughout his career, still in League One. At the time, I think was 34, but still an impact player at that level. And just a weird, you know, one of those weird conversations. He wanted to come into the U.S. and was looking, you know, for his own personal reasons to come. We talked about Charlotte. We had some common acquaintances that, you know, helped. And so then he came in here with the thought that he would play the remainder of our season, and just brought a level of quality to the group, you know, that maybe we hadn't had an opportunity to have in. So it was super, and we had a good group. I mean, you know, at that point, Dane was with us, and Kelly, you know, who's been all-time scorer in USL Championship, etc., and is just a fantastic player and character as well. So when Sylvain came in a weird way, we met him. Actually had at the time Brian Haynes was our assistant. Met him at the hotel. And was going to take him around, show him the facilities. You know, we sent pictures and all that, but show him the facilities, show him home base, where we trained, etc. And in the, you know, when he met Sylvain, Sylvain had a buddy with him at the time, who was Gabriel Oberton, and so Gabby joined them for the tour, and, you know, basically was on vacation. He was on break from his last club. You know, came in and he had, you know, after a day or so, mentioned coming in just to train. I thought about it, I got to be honest, for like no time at all. And so we had him out, and of course, you know, I think, you know, Gabby, we're fortunate we have a very good setup with the day-to-day training and so forth. I think Gabby enjoyed it. We do have, you know, good quality guys as well. So enjoyed the training, and then for his own kind of personal reasons, it made sense for him to want to stay here. So that's the Reader's Digest on that. So we were fortunate to get him involved, and then yeah, probably the last one that year that came into the group was Christian Fuchs, and you know, Christian had signed a deal in the off season with Charlotte FC, and had, you know, wanted to kind of get settled into the city and so forth, but also wanted to stay sharp fitness-wise. So we worked out an arrangement for him to come in and play with us and train with us, and it was fantastic. I mean, that year. Obviously, such an joy, for me to be able to work with, those guys and so forth. I think we'll always feel like it got away on a tough decision in the playoffs, but we had such a good group and such a good team, and we managed to kind of push ourselves towards the top of the table. I think we went like I don't know how many games unbeaten at the end of the year to move ourselves up, and so forth. But it was definitely a special season, and kind of coming off COVID-1 and coming off sort of opening the stadium, I thought it was a great way to get ourselves going. I think it's been fantastic having those guys. I also appreciate kind of having younger guys and trying to move them up the ladder of success as well. So. We're fortunate again. If the old saying is true that you kind of remember 10% of what you hear and 50 of what you see and 90 of what you do, it's important that we have guys that are top quality guys that are super professionals, that kind of lead by example, lead by the quality of what they do day in and day out, are sounding boards for young guys that can get information or get quality stuff about the game from guys that have been at levels where they want to get to. So you can talk to Sylvain about League One, or Gabby or Christian about the Premier League, being in different countries, how you go about winning a championship, etc. So the guys can have those conversations and can see that there's a real path line to moving up the ladder, that may be a better picture than me just trying to describe it, and so forth. So I think it's a huge plus on that end. It certainly makes games competitive day in and day out, but that's always been a trademark of our group almost since day one, in terms of what I believe and how I want to structure things. So, but it helps when you have those guys, for sure. So Charlotte, first, in terms of me personally, it's easy for me because look, we love it here. Both my wife and I love it. The kids, when they show up, enjoy being here, and so forth. So it's easy for me to be a positive influence on bringing guys here and saying, how much I appreciate being here and how much I enjoy being in the city. So I think that's a plus. I like to think it's a credit to all the people that have sort of come before and helped us build the franchise to what it is now, in terms of the structure, in terms of being able to provide players with a good day-to-day life, provide players with a pathway or a way to move up and to develop themselves. So I like to think that over the course of the year, some of the guys that were here in the beginning were Troy, Nate Walzer, Joel Tyson, guys that have put their heart and soul into it and loved it, and maybe moved up as coaches, but that we were able to build something that's sort of lasting, strong, and viable, and a place where people would want to come because they can see opportunity, but they can see a place that's going to compete and going to try to win championships, as well as push and develop players. And I think they can also see a place where we're all happy here, we're comfortable here, and we believe in the project that's here. That was huge moment for me, but more for the club. I think we've always fashioned ourselves as a team that wants to be at the top of the table and wants to be a championship club, and so to make the final was huge for us, and really exciting. Most excited for the guys. Look, we have a lot of guys that have played a lot of years. We have young guys that haven't, and so forth, haven't had the chance to experience being in a final, etc. So I thought it was a great moment for them. You know, you always write the script a little bit differently and so forth, but I wanted to make sure that just A, getting to the final was something that we achieved, and B, that the final was sort of a day, a moment they'll remember, both the disappointment of not winning, but also just for it being a big event and it being an accomplishment and being kind of a special day. And I truly felt that was the case. You know, I've been fortunate in my career and had the opportunity to be in a couple of them, on the right side of some and on the wrong side of some, but they're all special and they all stand out in terms of the memory, and I wanted to make sure that the guys and also the people that you know, do all the work within the organization feel a part of that and could take, you know, some excitement out of it and feel a part of our group as well. We've covered, really, honestly, most of them. You know, that I thought were just great days. I have a lot of memories of kind of weird stuff, of things that, you know, that we kind of overcame, and you know, I think there'll be a lot of things that Troy and I will laugh about, Troy Lesane, you will laugh about forever at the beginning in terms of, you know, kind of putting everything together and so forth. I do have a lot of memories in those areas that I'll probably end up, quite honestly, keeping to myself for a little while. You know, I do regret very much so. I feel like this has been just a wondrous experience the whole way, and, you know, probably not being able to take better notes and put it all together in a more formal way, because there were so many different, both good and fascinating and kind of crazy times over the course of 10 years, but also very much a lot of special ones, for sure. You know, I look at every year as a special year and every year as a separate year. You know, trying to build a roster as best we can, trying to compete every year and again, win the league, get you know, championship, get to the final, win in the final. And so every year, you know, kind of look at it as a separate year. But big picture items, I definitely want to grow the franchise in a positive way. So big picture items would be, one, we've sort of tilting the bar a little bit towards developing younger players and bringing younger players on board, and trying to push some of those guys out into higher levels and be move the needle a little bit more towards being a developmental type club than what we have been in past. Two, you know, interacting and bringing some of the academy and youth players that we've had training with us and getting them through the ranks where I feel comfortable that those guys are going to be, you know, heavily contributing members or come back to us when they've played some college, etc., and be a part of the group and then develop and push themselves on. Three, continue to push the academy and youth club to be huge supporters and huge fans of the franchise and build numbers that get to the games. And then four, again, just appreciative of the fan clubs, the supporters groups, everybody else that's bought into us and want to make sure that we do everything we can to keep those guys motivated, keep those guys you know, happy and push a great product and an enjoyable experience for them throughout the games.